I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
The more you talk, the harder I want to hit you.
I'm happy because of being here today. Fuck you.
Come on, you want me to drive? No. You're supposed to be suicidal, remember? I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Get in the car.
Fucking shit. Fuck me in the fucking ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
What's up? It's Don G. Corleone here, and we are here with a brand new franchise ranking because a newest film has finally released in theaters last weekend, and we're now getting on to the ranking of these movies. So, this is going to be for the ranking of all 6 of the films in the Scary Movie franchise, from the worst to the best. And this is just my personal rankings, so I'm still interested in hearing all your guys' personal rankings in the comments down below. But until then, let's get started with what I think. Now some people will disagree with me on some of these, but I think what we're starting off with, because we're starting from the worst to the best, is the one I think just about every person will probably agree with me on, is right at the bottom worst. So here we go. Let's get started with what I think you obviously know what's going to be coming first. So kicking off in 6th place, bottom of the barrel, is Scary Movie 5. Yes, yes, and yes. No matter what film would come in the series, good or bad, this has always forever been the bottom of the fucking barrel. Nothing could ever be anywhere as bad as this. And those can say Scary Movie 6, the newest one, is the worst one. Watch this movie. Clearly have not watched this movie at all. Nothing can ever be as bad as this. Like, this is definitely the film that you can see why. This series went on hit status for 13 years. It's because of this awful piece of shit. You know, Seltzer and Freeberg were gonna make Scary Movie 1, but guess what? This might as well be what it probably would have been if those two had made the first one and not the Wayans brothers. Everything in this movie feels so tiring and overplayed. No Anna Faris, no Regina Hall, which I don't think, even if they were in the film, they probably wouldn't have been able to save this train wreck in the first place. Instead, you get fucking Ashley Tisdale from Disney, Simon Rex, who was not even funny in Scary Movie 3 and 4 either. You get fucking Snoop Dogg and some other guy being our new other comic relief characters. The acting for the cast is so atrocious, and it was so fucking embarrassing to sit through, start to finish. And it's embarrassing to see some people in this movie. The pacing drags the movie down, and it just feels like it wouldn't end, despite the short runtime the movie has. Characters just reappear with no explanation. Cindy, we don't know whatever the fuck became of her in this film. They never mention her at all. The absence is just so hollow. No anchor, no clever humor, just a bunch of random sketches. They're parodying stuff like Rise of the Apes, which, once again, the problem with these newer films is they don't pay attention to fucking horror movies. Most of their main plots were taken from random films that just have some scary moments in them, and they just automatically think they're scary movies, so they just slap them in there, and they slapped on Scary Movie so the movies would make money. It was pretty much getting to that age after Scary Movie 2. They just try to combine too many different movies in one storyline, like Seltzer Freeberg. The humor is so forced. The clever satire that the first two are known for is lacking. And there's and whenever they try to capture the original spirit, it's gone. It fails so bad. Like, you have Snoop Dogg and the other guy referencing Cabin in the fucking Woods for 2 minutes straight. You have the Black Swan bit with a girl with a tie around her because she's fat. You have the pool cleaners having orgy and the maid twerking her ass and giving shit pies to reference the help to Simon Rex, and monkeys throwing fucking poo at people referencing Rise of the Planet of the Apes with Caesar, which is not a horror movie. Why is it in Scary Movie then? It's a sci-fi action thriller. There's a fucking difference, you morons. With that. Like, none of these jokes are fucking funny. The only funny thing I can even think about with this movie is Rambo Raft for Life's rant on it back when the movie came out, which got re-uploaded to YouTube like a year ago or something, or a few years ago. And movie-wise, though, there's nothing good about this fucking movie. Scary Movie 5 sucks ass. I'm glad this film was retconned from existence. It deserves to. This does not deserve to be a part of the franchise. And I'm done talking about this piece of shit because I don't want to talk about this piece of shit anymore. So let's just move on to number 5. Kicking off bottom at number 5 is Scary Movie 4, the last of the Zucker shits. Yeah, guys, you all should know, like a lot of people, like myself, I hate the era with the Zuckers. Okay? This is where the Zuckers, when the Zuckers entered Scary Movie 3, that was where the series really turned to shit. Because it was pretty much, Scary Movie 3 is liked by people, and I'm not talking about that one yet, but I don't know why it is. Some people prefer the Zucker era, but I just don't. Like, this is one that's just got lazy, and more on that later. So, this is for Scary Movie 4, though. What at the time had ended Anna-Faris series for a while until the recent film was not the good way to wrap it up. Because Scary Movie 3 was apparently somehow a bigger hit, they repeated the same problems I hate about 3, which I'll mention when I get to 3. Scary Movie 4 continues the franchise's downward slide that had started with that film. Delivers a parody where they just got so lazy, they ran out of ideas by that point. It really felt like they just did not give a fuck about the series anymore. The series was once known for sharp spoofing and outrageous humor in 1 and 2. This installment relies entirely on the recycled jokes and pop culture references that were not even funny in Scary Movie 3. They feel just dated within the film's era. And the problem they have here is the writing. Sure, Scary Movie is not something that's known for good writing, but the first two kind of have that with its humor. Instead of trying to make clever satire, the film settles for a bunch of random gags, bodily humor, surface level references to movies like War of the Worlds, not a horror film, Saw, yeah, that's a horror film, The Grudge, yeah, it's a horror film, and The Village, not a horror film, more of a mystery thriller, and a shitty one too. Fuck The Village. Jokes are hit or miss at best, and sketches are just stretched on way too long. The sequence with the village goes on for like 10 fucking minutes, and it goes nowhere. It's not important to the plot, because when Anna and Regina just leave, the village is never seen again, so it's just not fucking important to the plot. It has no purpose to be in the movie. Right there, like at all. So, like, just like that too. The humor feels so desperate and daring. Just thinking random stuff would be so funny. Performances do little to elevate the material. Like Anna-Faris brings her commitment, but her charm is just wasted on weak material. And she just looks like she just so bored and tired of being in the films when this film came out. Leslie Nielsen was one of the only funny things in the third one. Here, there's not a single funny scene with him in. And he's only like 2 scenes of the movie and he's gone after the whole bit with the whole machine malfunctions in front of the audience and turns them all butt-ass naked. I don't want to see the late Leslie Nielsen full-on butt-ass naked in front of a stage of politicians or something. Right there. Like they ruined one of the only funny things about 3. And made that one bit not funny in this film. Right there. And couldn't even save this movie at all. It made Leslie Nielsen rest in peace. And the supporting characters are just placeholders and contributors to comedy. The movie literally starts off with some unfunny Saturday Night Live style reenacting of the first Saw movie with Shaquille O'Neal and Dr. Phil parodying Leigh Whannell and Carrie Ellis from the first film, where Dr. Phil ends up cutting off the wrong foot without even looking, apparently, because apparently this Dr. Phil is that stupid. And then that kicks off the movie. Have our plot be War of the Worlds 2005 with a parody Tom Cruise, and that film is not even a horror movie in the first place. Now, have references to anything relevant or new. And speaking of parody Tom Cruise, let's have the film basically end with a Final Destination reference where you have James Earl Jones, late James Earl Jones, play the narrator. And to piss me off more, let's have him get hit by a fucking bus. You think this is fun? Oh no. Yeah, I want to see who is one of my all-time favorite actors. James Earl Jones was, and it's sad he's gone. And that to have him be in this parody and to show such disrespect for his legacy by having him be in a Final Destination reenactment where he's more parody Morgan Freeman and have a bus just strike him out of nowhere and expect me to find that funny. No, it's not. That was so hated that bit. And the movie doesn't end. No, the movie just doesn't end there because we just have to end it with another Tom Cruise throwback because we're parodying Tom Cruise's character, War of the Worlds, where Tom Cruise went crazy on Oprah when he was in love with Katie Holmes, and let's just have it end with an Oprah reenactment where he's just jumping around, ripping the couch, breaks Oprah's wrists, and apparently that's supposed to be funny to people, but it's just not. It just feels so random. And probably not, I don't think everybody even knows of that incident. You have too much slapstick comedy, like objects falling on people, getting hit in the face with objects, like there's too many jokes involving the daughter of parody Tom Cruise being ignored by parody Tom Cruise, or getting hit and attacked with objects and such. And the movie is just unfunny from start to finish. Too many pop culture references and cameos than the previous films. Like, this one just sucks. And this was not a good way to end Anna's original time in the series for a while. Right? This is definitely where the example of where they lazily jump the shark. Kicking off at number 4 is going to be for the most overrated film in the series, and cue the knives and pitchforks, Scary Movie 3. And here we go, all the comments, people. What? How dare you put that at the bottom? Yeah, I am going to put it at the bottom because I think the movie sucks. Okay? This was definitely where the series got really bad and got really stupid. Like, I have no idea. I never understood why everyone loves this one so much. Like, this is where, what I was talking about, this is where they stopped caring about trying to parody horror films and just started basically doing whatever the hell was popular. In fact, they barely mention any of the events of the first two, so you might as well just call this a reboot. Really. Because they don't mention Ray or Shorty. Yeah, I know, the Wayans weren't back for this one. They don't mention any of the other characters. So, other than Sydney and Brenda coming back, you could just call this a reboot and just call this whatever the fuck is popular movie. Yeah, because then apparently this is such a fan favorite. There's some that say this is better than the first film, and just why? This is where all the bad era started. Like, spoof movies are, by this point, we're starting to become the bottom of the barrel when it came to comedy coming out of Hollywood. The genre was starting to kind of fade out, and it was kind of kickstarting the beginning of its death with all the Seltzer-Freeberg knockoffs. The Scary Movie franchise just began its downward spiral here. And because the over-the-top gross-out factor was absent from the first two, the slapstick elements became the norm. Here's a tip, guys. If you're going to try to keep what started with gross out 2 first films, then just don't resort to slapstick in the first place. It doesn't get funny when it's done on repeat to death, and it's just a distraction. And now, most of the original cast is not back, but what made the original powerful was the performers, and some of them are missing. And while Brenda is back for like a brief time, she's killed off for the rest of the movie. And they did bring her back in 4, but that was just clearly to save backlash and just try to add some funny stuff. They probably knew 4 wouldn't be that funny, so they just lazily brought her back, and they gave her nothing to do in 4. And here, they just axe her off for the rest of the film. And the rest of the film, then, like, she's one of the funniest parts of the series, and they just axed her off like that, and so it just feels less funny without her around. So, our main plot, it doesn't know what the fuck it wants to parody. It wants to have bits of The Ring. Yes, that is a horror movie, but most of the main plot feels like it's taking elements from fucking Signs. Which, oh right, is that a horror movie? No! I don't know why people call Signs a horror movie. Signs has scary elements, yes, but that's more of a thriller. That's a thriller about Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix living on a farm, looking after either children, nephews. Like for Joaquin, it's nephews. For Mel, it's his children. Obviously, either way, looking after them, and they get caught up, isolated from society in this alien crisis. You know, it's a drama thriller, has some scary elements, but it's not a horror movie. All right, it's more of a drama thriller. And I'm surprised it's even marketed as one. It marketed as a horror film, but it's not really that scary of a movie. And how they used its comedy never worked. Oh yeah, they also take stuff like 8 Mile and the Matrix sequels. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about by saying parody whatever the fuck is popular. There's too many. There's all those There's Michael Jackson jokes in the first two, fine. But this one, they're parodying the ones where the people were accused of being a pedo or some pedo, and those jokes were never funny in 3 or 4. That's another problem I have with the series, and they're just not funny jokes. Okay. It's just kicked in the crotch humor throughout the whole entire film. Has way too much stuff, too many movies, too many cameos, too many comedy killer jokes, too many gags. And you're supposed to laugh at a million Three Stooges kung fu fight sequences that go on way too long, and you're like, just shut off and move on to the next bit. And the plot decides to lurch forward. It just seems so random, right there. It's just basically think of somebody taking a golf cart on a golf course and thinking it's a free car. They steal it for a joyride. They ride it on the road, and they don't give it back until the police pull them over, beat them up, and arrest them. Think of it like that. Because not only that, he also smashed into a few cars and didn't bother leaving notes. And basically, if any drivers yell at him, he went, fuck you, at them, thought he was above the law because he was a fucking moron. Or like that. Like, it just keeps rolling out one skit after another, character after another, cutting the good ones short to cram some random ones in you barely knew and barely give a fuck about. And, like, now when it comes to the only funny stuff of the film, I mentioned before when talking about Scary Movie 4, the late Leslie Nielsen was the only funny thing about Scary Movie 3. Yeah, unlike Scary Movie 4, he is actually the only funny scene in the whole film is when he's at the White House. The White House bit got a bit of a laugh out of me when he's like punching all the disabled people, thinking they're aliens and stuff. So that was like the one only funny scene of the whole movie. Though, to be fair, why couldn't this guy's role just have been in the Naked Gun movie and not in this franchise, you know? His plot should have just been for a Naked Gun 4, that he could have come out while he was still around, but no. Instead, we just throw it in this, sadly, it's thrown in this crappy movie, which really sucks. That's the only scene I liked of the whole movie, but that's it. Other than that, I think this film just sucks, okay? It just does not get a laugh out of me, and I'm on the crowd where I think it just got really stupid with this one. Now, kicking off at number 3 is going to be for the new kid on the block, that is Scary Movie 6 or Scary Movie 2026. Yes, guys, the mixed new kid on the block is in a number 3 spot, because, honestly, I am mixed on this movie. I would prefer this movie over any day over the last 3 I just mentioned, in lots of aspects. So, Scary Movie 6, to me, is entertaining like the first act. The second act, it kind of, The final act has a few laughs and stuff, but it's strongest in the first act. It doesn't still hold a candle to the first 2 original Wayans Brothers movies. The story at times, like once it gets to the second act when Doofy re-enters the picture, it feels a little choppy because it's trying to cram in references to many different films. The first 2 still did as well. They just weren't as abundant as the stuff after 2. So the plot just doesn't really come together a lot. But I did laugh quite a bit, whereas unlike in 3, 4, and 5, where I barely laughed or did not laugh in the slightest. It's not their best one, though, because some jokes don't really make anyone laugh, but I didn't mind it for what it was. Like, I think one of the problems is that we don't really see a lot of Shorty in the film. I feel like Brendan and Shorty just aren't in the film too much, and right there, and they just don't feel as like crazy or iconic as they did before in the first 2 movies. Scary Movie 6 does try to recapture the chaotic gay-filled energy of the earlier entries in the franchise, while the first 2, that is, only. It ends up feeling like a mid-tier effort rather than a full-blown return to form. The formula does feel still there, like Skewer's recent horror movies with a lot of in-jokes, celebrity cameos, and fourth wall breaks, but the last 2 feel a little more sporadic and a little more limited at times and really relentless. It has a good amount of offensive humor, Like there's some good offensive bits, like with the Final Destination sequence at the start, or like Ray or Shorty's live stream bits, or the Sinner's bit with Ray, at the church, or the K-pop Demon Hunter sequence that appears after the Get Out sequence. And let's not forget the White Chicks cameo during the Substance bit, and the Terrifier scene as well. Right here, and that's just felt refreshing because you don't see that kind of comedy much anymore. Someone who likes I like comedy and horror at times when it's evenly well balanced. This first two films were kind of like a fine enough mix, by parodying horror films, and the references to some of the recent horror films as well are also very great. I appreciate what they're trying to do here. But it's also disappointing in some ways. Like, there's stuff in the second act that fell forced. Doofy, I wish, did not come back because we saw in the first one he's a twist character. He wasn't even a real character, so it makes no sense why in the world he's even back. Several new characters, like the new gen characters, that are kind of parodying the ruder younger characters that shit on the original leads. They don't really work. Despite the fact they're kind of parodying those characters, they just still didn't really work for me. Especially Cindy's daughter or boyfriend. But then again, honestly, I don't think you were supposed to like either of those two. So I guess so I can see why they're not likable. I don't think they wanted you to like them. The original two movies do set the bar a little high with memorable characters, great timing, and actually enjoyable actors in these roles who knew how to sell the stupidity of the humor. This time around, by the time after the first act, they don't really put in a lot of effort into the whole building stronger new characters. Like, it's not the enjoyable movies 1 and 2 are, but it's a fine legacy sequel that, I wouldn't mind putting this on every once in a while. Like, one of the problems I feel like people do have is that when the trailers came out, people got a little too crazy hype. They thought this was going to be an airplane-like movie, despite the fact that if you remember the critical reactions to the whole series in general, it's never been comedies like that. Like, just look at the first two, guys. They're better liked, but at the same time, they weren't really well received by critics when they came out either. So I don't know why people thought this was going to be a crazy critical praise film. In a way, if they pay attention to some of the other critical reactions to the other movies. It's never been a critic's favorite, so the negative reviews I could see coming a mile away. Right there, but the first act actually had me laughing a bit. And the ending was not bad. Like, it was nice to see a cult of ghost faces and Cindy go John Wick on a few of them. Brenda still, despite not being in the film as much, actually still had the laugh she had in the first two. And it's just nice seeing Ray and Shorty again. They actually were enjoyable, despite the limited screen time they did have. And seeing them kill the younger, ruder characters is kind of a funny, satisfying, pretty random twist, in a way. When they propose they take the franchise from them and carry on their legacy, but like, fuck that. And they leave them in the house to burn. Which was like, so... It was kind of a funny little bit right there, because the series only belongs to Anna, Regina, the two Wayans brothers, and that is it, right? Nobody else. So it's nice to see them take back the franchise. And then, like, that ends with them walking, but their pants got burned off, so they walk bare ass back. So yeah. It's not great, but it still got a few laughs out of me. That's what matters. Well, I just wanted to go watch it for just an average, laugh to have in the cinema. And I had that. So, this is a movie I don't mind. And I don't mind popping it on every once in a while. Maybe not as frequent, but not every once in a while. Now let's move on to our next two. Now kicking off at number 2 is going to be for the one that started it all, and that is Scary Movie, the very first film. Yeah. Now, some consider this to be the best film of the series, but for me personally, it's the second best film of the series. So, I like this movie. I don't overly love it as films like Airplane or The Naked Gun or Spaceballs, but I like this movie for how ridiculous it is. The humor is dumb, it's chaotic, it's non-stop, and that's why it works so well. It parodies late 90s horror movies like Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and making fun of basically everything else possible. Sure, there are some jokes in the film that don't really land for me, like some of the more overly vulgar ones. I feel probably could have did without a few of them, like the sex scene I think we could have did without. That stuff, like some stuff is a little off-putting. in a way. I like vulgar, offensive comedy, but some of the stuff they do in this film is just off-putting for me in a little bit. Like, but I instead still had a good time with the film, and it's over the top, wacky, Looney Toony performances of all the cast, especially Anna Faris in one of her first roles, feel intended, and for the most part, they all really work. Released at the beginning of the 2000s in 2000, Scary Movie was the first in this whole series. It's a sustained demand for this unique comedic approach, and it was also a bit of a bad thing to happen to the parody genre because it would foreshadow the future of its death with Seltzer Freeberg knockoffs. This film, though, combines all the rude, sexual, shocking humor with elements of ridiculousness and allow for mixed reactions. Some scenes don't really appeal, but there are some that are still hilarious. Like the theater scene is hilarious, the What's Up scene is hilarious. Like the Holy Cast scenes are hilarious. I Know You Did Last Summer parody is hilarious. The core cast is all good with each other, and they work so well with each other, and they understand the assignment and can match the film's energy. This version of Ghostface that gets such great laughs from all the physical reaction, it's like Anna Regina, Sean Wayans, Marlon Wayans, John Abrahams have the right level of commitment with one another, and they get so much memorable moments like with each other, and a lot of the jokes really do make sense. There's definitely some jokes that are not too short of hilarious, and like it's a cross between stuff like I Know You Did Last Summer and Scream, and there's elements from those films. They have some other elements too, like they have an element from the Blair Witch Project that is one of the humor bits I could have did without. It's like the bit when Gail runs through the woods, and then she's hiding the tent, and then you see snot dripping down her nose and close up. Like that's just disgusting as fuck. And the sex scene between, I think, John Abrahams and Anna Faris that probably could have been done without. That just wasn't really that funny, and that just got repetitive. Like it goes on for like 5 minutes, and it got so repetitive right there. But the humor that really does work is that the whole theater scene is great with Regina Hall when she's just ruining the movie and being so fucking annoying to the cinema to the point where everyone and Ghostface even gets so pissed off that he just stabs her, and everyone else takes part in stabbing her. And that's such an awesome moment, especially if you've had to deal with people like this at a theater. Like, everyone has to deal with an idiot like this at a theater. Case in point, the chicken jockey people for Minecraft. So if you've ever dealt with this comes off as a satisfying moment to actually see such annoying cinema goers get what they fucking deserve. And the What's Up scene with Ghostface was also very hilarious as hell. Or like the whole diva fashion show bit. That also was very gold as well. There, and the twist with Doofy, the Usual Suspects twist, was not a bad kind of twist ending to end the film. In a way. Despite the fact that I'm just not a fan of the Doofy character. The Doofy character never got any laughs out of me in this series. Like, what does bog it down, though, is some of the vulgar humor, you know? Like the beginning bit with Ghostface, or the beginning bit with Carbolectra's death, where she runs through, like, the whole sprinklers, or something like that, and the Michael Jackson reference at the start of the scene, like, that's not my boyfriend. I mean, yeah, I fucked him a few times, but yeah, like, that's the weirdest way. The way you start the movie off is a parody of Drew Barrymore's Death and Scream, and you get random ways to start the film as Ghostface looking at a porno magazine, and that Michael Jackson bit I mentioned earlier. Like, it just feels a bit off to start the movie like that. But overall, though, it's not really, it's still pretty enjoyable. It's a good little 7 out of 10 movie that actually can get watched for a few laughs. It's not something to watch over and over again, like films with Airplane and Naked Gun, which are the kings of parody movies. But this, actually, is enjoyable for 2000s people, especially if you grew up in the 2000s. Like, it's a good way to, watch like a film that kind of revolutionized it for a little while, but it didn't last very long. But, enjoyable. But there is another one that's better. And with that, guys, the number one best film of the series to me will always be Scary Movie 2. Yes, guys, one of the more not well-received ones, what a lot of people consider to be one of their most hated films of the series, to me is actually the best one of the series. And for all these reasons. Why Scary Movie 2 to me remains very classic is all the weird humor, this one has. The characters are even more awesome than they are in the original. The ghost story here is just a lot of fun. Like, I don't care what anybody says. To me, this was where the series really peaked. It feels like it's parodying the horrors that actually helped start horror in the first place by going to demonic possession instead of slasher, and having our still alive cast go to a haunted house for a reward prize hosted by the legendary Tim Curry, like parodying House on Haunted Hill. The array of films being parodied ranging from The Haunting to even Titanic a little bit, a film I'm not a fan of, but still, adds a sense of disorganization, exposes a fractured storytelling approach. Like Scary Movie 2 really treats the original's potential as a franchise lightly, straying from the horror movie roots, emphasizing the possibility of easy laughs and thoughtful satire at the same time. You even have you still have even more funny bits here, like the whole dinner sequence with Chris Elliott contaminating all the food, or like ever anaphories bits like with the cat or the car radio. Let's not forget the poltergeist clown bit when Sean Wayne's is in his room, or Ray's character, the character Ray, and the poltergeist clown is under there, and he goes and drags him under the bed, but then the tables turn when Ray pretty much turns the tables on the clown. The clown's like, wait, what? And then the clown's like, it comes out of there, of the bed, like, ah! And like, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Because probably sticking his finger up its ass. And drags it back and pretty much rapes the clown. Of course, like, you also have the Exorcist parody bit with James Woods playing one of the priests. And Cindy's also Cindy's scene with the cat, like I mentioned, and easily. Like, there's so much material to really work with here. It's so much to parody. Yeah, I also have David Cross being funny in this one with the guy in the wheelchair who always keeps declining all the characters' health no matter how much danger he's in. It's like, I know what I'm doing. It's like, yeah, Dwight Hansen easily make, like, Dwight Hansen bits, and the returning casts, like, are also just as good here. Cindy, Shorty, Ray, Brenda, like, they're all still the funny characters they are in the first film, and they're all magically back despite they die in the first film. But it's the series tradition, the characters do die in the films and they always just come back like nothing happened, like Kenny in South Park all the time. It's like that gag. And other funny bits, you have Cindy sitting in a car, and this thing on the radio asks her to shut the fuck up. And that was so funny. Also, like, Cindy's new love interest always constantly being so rough with her all the time. And, like, it still has a bit of the gross out in the movie, but thankfully, it doesn't rely on the gross out. That was a bit of a problem with the decently good first film right here. After that. So I like they kind of limited all the gross out humor here and just relied more on just typical gags they kind of should have did in the first place. Hit there. Like, it's so sad. Like, after the best one of the series, they had to stoop so low after this. Because after this film, it seemed like they were really on a great approach. And the Wayans did, at the time, have a good idea for Scary Movie 3. But then the Weinstein said no and kicked them out. Unfortunately. If I had a problem, is that the movie does feel a little bit rushed. And I feel it should have been given, like, another year. I think maybe the problem is that they should have just released this in like 2002 or something. Maybe a better time to release the film, not rush in 2001, because Scary Movie 1 was a huge moneymaker. And they pretty much rushed the sequel way too quick. They basically made them do a sequel way too quick. So that was kind of their fault. They should have let the Wayans wait a little bit and then let them just do it 2 years after the first film. It would have been much better planned out. But to me, all in all, Scary Movie 2, to me, is always a series' peak, and easily one of the funniest comedies that is critically panned. And nowadays, like, a lot of people like this film way better than when they used to. Like, this is definitely the funniest film in the series, and for a while, it was actually the last good film in the series that was worth a shit. Alright, there we go, guys. That wraps up my ranking for all 6 of the films. No, I don't think the franchise will be over because the film this weekend made $54 million domestically. Best opening weekend of the series worldwide even with $105 million. So, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being pretty profitable enough for another film in the series. They have meant, like, the Wayans did mention that if they make a 7th film, they're thinking about parodying Obsession and Backrooms next because those are the most recent horror films that were successful. But also, is easily as well, They are thinking about also doing a White Chicks 2 depending on how the movie does. So I think this film might be successful enough for a White Chicks 2. In a way. So I don't think the series, so I think we might get another film in the series. But hopefully, I hope that maybe they can improve on 7, you know? Maybe see the flaws with 6 and maybe improve with a 7th film if they make a 7th film. But either way, I won't mind seeing how it goes with them back. Now, we might finally get the proper 3 and 4 that they probably could have did had they been able to stay in the series. But yeah, that wraps up the whole ranking. Now I want to know in the comments down below what you guys think about these films, how you would rank them. Either way, your ranking. And until then, guys, that will be it for this ranking. Thank you all for watching. And if you like this and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.